independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia, and it is Tuesday night, so it is time for my weekly online class to go. So for anyone who is new either to my Facebook page or my YouTube channel, welcome. On Tuesday nights each week I do a live class. We make 3 cards using a featured stamp set or bundle. And then for anyone who places an order of $75 or more before shipping and after any Stampin' Rewards redemption, by the end of Saturday night, I will send you, as a thank you from me, the kits to make 2 each of the cards from this week's class. So you'll get all the cardstock designer series paper, any ribbon, any die cuts that are not part of the featured bundle. So if it's a week with a featured bundle, those die cuts, you'll get the cardstock or designer series paper, but not the actual die cuts themselves. Because if you use something different, if you don't have what I'm using, but you're using something similar, then it makes more sense to use the dies that you have that coordinate with that set. But this week it is a stamp set only, so there are no there's no dies to go with it, and I haven't used any dies in this one. There are some punched shapes, but that is it. So let me I'm just trying to check things. There we go. All right, so let me switch my camera view around. So these are the 3 cards for this week. So this week's class will probably take a little bit longer than most weeks, just because there's a bit of colouring and ink blending involved. So it'll just take a little bit longer, but that's all right. So the featured bundle this week is the Make-A-Wish bundle. So this is one of those ones that does tend to get overlooked a little bit. It's one of the online exclusives that is currently available, and I think this is probably the only time I have ever used every single stamp in a class. So I have used everything in this set. Alrighty, so we will start with this one first. This one will probably take the longest. I have done a small amount of prep work ahead of time, but we have a Misty Moonlight card base. I have partially fussy cut the image that we're going to be colouring. Some Granny Apple Green, some designer series paper. This is from the Painted Illusions set, which is one of the product of the month products. It's still available, so you can get that one with a qualifying order. And then we have some Smoky Slate Basic White for the ink blending, and some Basic White for the sentiment, and I've already stamped the bucket. There will be a tiny bit of ink blending on that one as well, but we'll do that later. Let's put this bit together, because this is the part where I tend to forget about the ribbon. So let's get this together. Hi Dimity, how are you? Nice to see you, or at least see your message. Alright, so this goes on the Granny Apple Green. Once we get it into place, oops, that's better. And I've already put tear and tape on the back of the ribbon. This is Misty Moonlight ribbon from the Misty Moonlight and White ribbon starter pack, which is now on the last chance list. Alrighty, so we will put this, get this one down, and then we'll put the card base to the side while we do the ink blending and colouring. And just straighten that up a bit. There we go, that's better. All right, let's put that to the side. And I will bring in some grid paper so that we can colour on that. And so I've just got some basic white. And to start with, a colour I don't use all that often, but I am starting with lemon lime twist. So we're going to do that down the bottom. And we're going to go over a lot of this with the Granny Apple Green, but I wanted to add some of this in. And I'm going to go a little higher than what I'll go with the Granny Apple Green, so I can leave a little bit of it sort of a lighter section. So we'll go darker at the bottom, lighter at the top. I think that is probably about enough. We don't need a huge amount of this one because most of it we are going to go over. So Granny Apple Green is next. Let's get some of the lemon lime twist off. And we'll start at the bottom and work up. So we'll go almost up to the top of where the lemon lime twist is, but not quite. We want to leave a little bit at the top. Hi Renee, how are you? Alrighty, I think we've just about got enough there for now. And we can always go back and add more if we decide that a section isn't quite right, needs a bit more of any colour. We can always go back. So we are going to Army Blue next. Just get some of the, I used this for Misty Moonlight as well, so I just want to get some of that off. And that's right, I was going to bring in another brush for the Misty Moonlight. So we can go fair way up with this because we're going to lay other colours over the top, and this is the, as this is the lightest one, it doesn't matter too much. So we can go all the way up to the top. We want sort of a reasonable amount of colour in the middle, but not too dark. And we do want to blend in lightly with the top of that lemon lime twist. Alright, I think that will probably leave that for now. We can come back if we need to. Go Misty Moonlight. And I'm going to, I don't know if this is going to make a difference, but I am going to bring in a new brush. I don't know if it's the brush or the ink that was causing some issues for me recently, so we'll see. So we'll go Misty Moonlight, and we'll go all the way up to the top, and we'll start from sort of leave a bit of the Balmy Blue and then start adding the Misty Moonlight. Just blend it all in and go, you know, as dark as you like or as light as you like. Just remember, you can always add more, but you can't take it back. And we'll lightly blend into the bottom section of the Balmy Blue just so that it blends nicely. Let's leave that one for the moment. We'll go then to Blackberry Bliss. See how that looks. So this one is just going sort of up the top and down the sides, and I'm probably going to add a bit more Misty Moonlight, but I'll get a bit of the Blackberry Bliss down, and then we'll see how it looks. Because I did go for both, well, the sample card and my other sample card that I did for the reels, I did go fairly dark at the top. So I'll definitely need a bit more Misty Moonlight, but that's fine. We can just alternate until we get the right combo. Let's go back to Misty Moonlight. And we'll blend in over the Blackberry Bliss as well, because that helps make that one a bit darker. Alrighty, that's getting pretty close. Let's go a little bit more, and then a little more Blackberry Bliss over the top, and we'll see how that looks. I think it's getting there. Okay. A little more Blackberry Bliss. Blend it all in, and I think we are just about done with this part. I think that is looking pretty good. We will leave that for now. So the only other thing before we go on to the colouring is Wink of Stella. So we're just going to splatter a bit of the Wink of Stella, so give it a good shake, and then you just need a bone folder or something similar and just tap it over the surface, and you're unlikely to be able to see this properly on camera. But as long as you've got a reasonable amount of the fluid in your Wink of Stella, you should be able to see. There is definitely glimmer on there. I'm not sure how well you can see it on the camera, probably not that well because it's not super obvious, but that's kind of what we want. You don't want it to be too obvious. Having said that, I'm going to add a little bit more just because. That should be, yeah, there we go. That's better. All right, let's put that to the side for the moment. I do still need to do a little bit of blending for the little bucket, but I'm going to do that once it's just about ready to attach, because I need to match the colors. I'll explain what I mean when we get to that, but for now we need to color this one. So I have gone with Smoky Slate for the stone and the top, and then some, now I've got to make sure I get this right, so because the rest of these are the Skin Tone Blends ones. So for the sides I've used SU 400 and 500, so that's medium deep and medium 4, 5, and then for the bucket SU 600 and 800. 600 is medium, 800 is medium light. You could also, for the pillars, which is what I've used on the next one, you can also use Pecan Pie. That one also works just as well. Actually, that's right. I'm going to add the darker bits first, just so so there's a little less colouring, so it doesn't take quite so long, but also so it's not quite so dark. And of course, if you want to get fancy, you can add other colours to the mix, like grey granite, but I'm just going with the two to keep it simple, especially as there's a fair bit of colouring and ink blending in this class, so if I get too fancy, we'll be here all night. Alrighty, so let's just make sure that is all blended in. Just go over some of the bits or the parts that are meant to be a bit darker, one to blend it in, but also to just add a little bit more depth to those sections, but it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, and then we'll come down to the bottom section, same thing again, we'll just add some of the dark in a few spots to get to add a little bit more there, a bit more there. And it's entirely up to you where you add the extra color. Oh, you can see the Winkers tail. Oh, good. Sometimes it's difficult to see it on camera, especially when it's really fine, but I'm glad you're able to see it, because it does just gives it that little bit extra. Alrighty, we're nearly done with this section. I think that is just about. And apologies if you can hear my dog in the background trying to chew her leg off. She does that. Alrighty, that should be enough, as I say as I keep going. Alrighty, and I think I'm going to have to take my gloves off. It gets quite warm under these lights. Alrighty, so now what do they say? 4 and 500 for the pillars. Yes, so I'm going with the bullet tips for this one, and we'll just add, same as before, just add a little bit of the dark, and then we'll go over with the lighter one, blend it all in. Okay, just about done here. And then we'll quickly colour the bucket. We'll do the ink blending once we've got this one, finished cutting this one out and have it ready, just so I can see where the bucket's going to sit, so that I know where I need to blend. So I'm going to grab a cutting mat, and then so if you've got the Take Your Pick tool, there is a craft tools attachment pack that you can buy to go with it as well, and that has a cutting blade. So which I'll go this way, I think. So I've done most of it, because you need to cut out in between there, and we want to cut along here. The only reason I didn't cut this bit earlier is so that the bar had a bit more support, and because I didn't want to tear it, so I left it all attached. So I'm just going to come back in and just try and tidy this up. We'll see how we go. Just trying to avoid going too far up. once you get to this point, it can be a bit tricky because the paper just wants to move up. But I'm going to probably come in with my scissors on that top bit now that everything has been cut away. Actually, let's try going from this side. Alright, and then I will just do my best to trim some of this now that I can get my scissors in properly, so we can just trim some of the rest off. And alternatively, you can always just add some more ink blending to get it to blend in with the background if you can't get it all cut away, or you just can't be bothered spending forever trying to get it looking the way you want it to look. Or you don't want to risk accidentally cutting something that you don't actually want to cut. So I think we will leave that as it is. That will be good enough, I think. Alrighty, so, oh, the bucket, that's right. So 6 and 800 for the bucket. Okay, and then what we need to do is bring this back in so that, oh, we do have a little bit more stamping to do on here, but that's all right, we'll do that in a sec. So if that is going to sit there, let's just, oh, I might as well just do, it'll be easier if I do fussy cutting for this bit now, and then I can, for me at least, it's easier to see exactly where it's going to sit and what shading I need to try and match as best I can. So, hey Tracy, how are you? Alrighty. Oops. So that is going to sit there. So we want fairly light blending now. And this isn't super essential, but do want to mask just a tiny bit, mainly sort of the back bit of the bucket, but and now I've lost my place on, this is just old washi tape that I'm never going to use as washi tape, so I use it when I need to mask small things. Alrighty, so let's just, and this is very sort of, yeah, ad hoc masking, not super well done, but we are just going to, and I'm just going to keep it just below, and we just want to make sure, because obviously the bucket is rounded, and we want to make sure we don't miss anything. So I'm not super fussed if I get ink on some of the inside of the bucket, because it's I'm going to be going over it and it'll probably be fine. So I'm just going to start with what's still on my brush. So this is one of my blue blending brushes, and we just want to add enough so that it blends in, because we don't want to have to cut out that inside bit, because it's a pain. It's likely to cut where you don't want to, so I think that is about all we need for that one. Let's just make sure that we haven't missed anything. That looks good. And then we will just add a tiny bit of smoky slate to the inside of the bucket. So that is what we need there. Now, before I forget, we need to just do a little bit of stamping here. So Granny Apple Green, and we are just, and I'll bring my scrap paper in because we do want to stamp off with this one, and just stamp wherever. It's not super particular, just, you know, wherever. Some of it will be covered, some of it won't. So just go with what works. That'll be enough. Fair bit of it's going to be covered. We just want just enough. And then, actually, while we're stamping, let's do the sentiment. So, where is my... I want to stamp on this side, not the other side, so I just want to get the little bit of adhesive off. So, Misty Moonlight for the sentiment. And once I find the one I need, there we go. Tracy, no, I am just going to, you could absolutely use some thread to dangle off. That absolutely would work. I'm just going to stick it behind. I'm going with the lazy option. But you absolutely could do some thread. And that would actually be quite good if you're doing like a a spinner card or something, or one where this piece was suspended, absolutely could tie that down with, or tie the bucket to the thing, the well. So yeah, that's actually a really good idea. All right, let's get this down. So we will stick this to the smoky slate. And then let's bring the card base back in. So that is going to sit about there. I just want to check the sentiment, because this one, it's a bit wide, so we just want to make sure that we've got enough room and we don't have the panel too far down. So I think that looks pretty good. You could always go with a different sentiment that's not quite as tall. So that will go down there. And then, so all I'm going to do with this one is, first of all, just stick it, just a little dab, if it wants to come out, just a tiny bit of glue at the back there. And we will, oops, actually it would be better if I did it this way, just so that it actually, and I should be doing this on a silicone sheet, but it's a tiny amount of glue, so I'm going to take my chances. Oops. I might need to try again with that. So just make sure it's straight, and that's fine, and we can always adjust slightly when it's on the card, which I probably will, because it's not quite right. Dimity, it's getting colder. It's sort of cold in the morning and sort of later at night, but it's actually that time of year where during the day you sort of look out the window and wish you didn't have to spend it in front of a computer at work, because it's really, really nice during the day and it's just getting chilly at night, but it's not too bad at the moment. But this room gets very, very cold in winter and very, very hot in summer. But these lights, or the overhead light, does give a bit of heat. All right, so we will stick that down. We can adjust the bucket if we need to, but I think that looks, I'm happy with that. We will leave that as is. And then we just need some dimensionals for the sentiment. Alrighty, and we get this one down, that looking good. And we should add the insert before I forget. Yep, just about done with this one. What's it like where you are, Dimity? I mean, I know it tends to be a lot warmer where you are than where I am, at least in winter, but alrighty, so embellishments, I am just using the rhinestone, the basic rhinestone jewels. I don't need my craft knife attachment, so I can add this one back. And there we go. That is the first one done. Alrighty. Let's move on to the next one. So this one we have, there is some more colouring but no ink blending for this one. So I'm just using a thick basic white card base for this one. And then I've got some basic black cardstock, some basic white, and some of the Regals Designer Series paper. So I've used a few different colours there. So let's do this front page. So, and I'm just going to lay these out to make sure that I've actually cut correctly. That is all looking good, and I also find having everything in place before I start gluing everything down also helps to make sure that I actually adhere things in the proper spot. Yeah, the wind, Tracy, makes it, it makes a huge difference. Like it can be a cold day, but not that bad, but you add the wind in and it's brutal. Alrighty. And we can go from, you know, quite nice calm weather 1 minute to just absolutely horrendous the next minute. It can change very quickly. But yeah, we've had quite a few days recently where it's chilly in the morning, but then it is such a nice day. And the last thing you want to be doing is working. I just want to go outside and enjoy the nice weather while we have it. Alright, so once we get these down, then, and that top one needs to slide over ever so slightly. Didn't quite get that right, but it'll be fine. We will just adjust. This is why I do recommend the liquid glue, particularly for this sort of stuff, because you've got that extra little bit of time to adjust if you need to. So I think that will be fine. It's not perfect, but it will work. Alrighty, so let's stick this one down and then we can move on to the stamping and colouring. Alright, so get that down and then we'll move that out of the way for the moment. So on this piece we just want to stamp the wishing well. And I've got hopefully my duck is just sitting under there somewhere. I know I've got it, I saw it just before. So just make sure this is well inked up, make sure I've got everything. Okay, so that one, and then just one of the little butterflies. And seeing as we're here, I am going to do the sentiment as well. Once I find that's the one I want, so I used basic grey for this one. But you could use basic grey, you could use Memento Black, Misty Moonlight, any dark one should be absolutely fine. And I've pre-cut the banner end because I really suck at cutting those, so I figured to save a little bit of time I would do it ahead of time, and also means I can make sure it vaguely looks half decent. Now I'm going to forget, there's my little duck, so let's move those to the side. Now colouring for this one, so going smoky slate again for the stones at the bottom. For the tiles I used pumpkin pie. You could also go with Cajun Craze, which was what I had originally intended to go with, but then I got them out and one of them was completely dried out, so I scrapped that and went with the pumpkin pie, but either one is absolutely fine. So we'll start here. Need to be a little more careful in terms of staying in the lines for this one, just because we are not fussy cutting this one. Although, yeah, there's always the option, if you do mess it up, you just fussy cut it and stick it onto another piece of basic white, so it can be fixed. Hopefully we don't have to do that, because that'll take a while to, if you have to sit and watch me fussy cut that one. Although I wouldn't do the inside part because that wouldn't be necessary, but let's try and avoid that altogether. Let's see how we go. Much like the first one, this does not have to be perfect, just blend it in, have some areas of dark and light. That one looks a bit weird where it's all light, so we'll just add a little bit there. And I think that's probably enough. Let's just blend that bit in a little better. That will do. Renee, is that 11 right now, or that's your overnight minimum? We had, I think it was last weekend, we got down to, well, when I got up in the morning to take the dog out, it was -1. But that was sort of that seemed to be a one-off. It's not anywhere near as cold this week, which is nice, because it's a bit early for those temperatures. Okay, let's blend that in. Oh, I just forgot there is another bit of stamping that we need to do for this one. We will do that once I finish this bit. Alrighty, nearly there. That should be enough. I don't want these ones super dark. Alrighty, now I forgot the little basket. Where is it? Now, hopefully I don't mess this up if I line it up properly. So excuse my head if it ends up in camera. This is one I need to be over the top a bit more, so I'm going to bring this a bit closer. Excellent. Very good. Alrighty. And I used Pecan Pie for this one, but you could also use the other skin tone blends that we used on the first card as well. That is another option. And same thing on this side. My dog is now snoring away. So if you can hear background noise, that is the dog snoring. All right, that's done. And now we need, where are those ones that I used? For the first one, I need 6 and 800. There is 6. That's crumpet. That's for later. I think this is, yes, that is 800. This is 600. So this is the same as the first one. And I think I kind of missed the bottom of that. Didn't quite stamp that as well as I thought. Let's just, actually no, I think we can, I reckon we can get away with, I was debating getting my fine liner and drawing the lines in, but I'm probably going to mess it up. I reckon we can get away without it. What do you think? I'll color the rest of it while I decide. So for the flowers, just I've used Granny Apple Green for the greenery. For the rest, use what you've got. You don't have to use the colors that I've used, and the ones that I chose were largely based on the ones that were right in front of me rather than digging through my container. So absolutely go with whatever you like. And where's my last one? There it is. Even though that one's going to end up being covered. And there's a tiny bit more Granny Apple Green needed, and I need to remember to do the little, I said butterfly before, but dragonfly. Alright, let's move some of these out of the way. Okay, so stick that one down. Okay, and then, oh, I forgot. Still need to colour, give our little duck a tiny bit of colour. There we go. Okay, so we will stick this one down in the center. And we will pop this one up on dimensionals. So we're just going to overlap the sentiment with the bottom of the panel there, and we'll just add a bit of adhesive to the duck. You could also pop up the duck on some dimensionals if you want. And then all that is left is some embellishments. So I've used a combination of the brushed brass butterflies. So I'm just adding a couple of the little ones of those. And I'm actually going to chuck on there, and that kind of also hides the bottom of the bucket that didn't quite stamp as well as I should have. And some of the Cajun Craze dots. So both these dots and the brushed brass butterflies all on the last chance list. So if you're after either of these, they are most likely discounted as well. I haven't checked recently, but they are last chance list. And there is our second one. That is 2 of the 3 done. On to the final one. How are we going for time? No, not yet. As I said, this one is a bit of a longer class. So, crumb cake card base, and then got some basic white and old olive for the sentiment. Old olive to back the basic white. I've got my little duck that I have already stamped. I'm just going to double check that that I've got the right size piece. Yes, I do. And one thing I've realized I haven't done is cut a piece of masking paper. Where is it hiding? Here it is. But that's all right. I can do that now. So you can use masking paper or post-it notes if you've got really long ones that are going to go the full width. And it's not super critical. We're only doing a little bit of ink blending, and it's going to be fairly light, so it's not going to be super obvious if you're careful. So don't stress too much about it if you haven't got the masking paper. Now let me get my blending sheet out. So we just want a little bit of a buffer area, really. So we just want to make sure we've got enough space. Let me just check how that compares. That's about right, I think. Doesn't have to be exact, but just roughly in that area. So very simple ink blending for this one. We are just doing 2 colors, and they're both going to be fairly light. So Balmy Blue for the top and Old Olive for the bottom. So we're not going to be going particularly dark. We want to keep it quite light, so don't go overboard. So just go nice and light. You really just want enough that you can see the color, so you can see the blue and you can see the green. The green you can probably go a little bit darker, but the blue in particular, because we're going to be stamping and coloring over the top of it, we don't want it to be too dark. We just need enough. So let's see, let's add just a tiny bit more. I think that's probably plenty. Okay, and then we just need to carefully take this off. And basically reverse it. Just leave a tiny bit of the blue showing, because if you don't, if you are right on the line, you will, and I'm just going to readjust that, you will probably find that you end up with a bit of a white line in between the two. So you just want a little bit of a line, and I've probably gone, I'm just going to adjust again. And like, it's not going to be perfect, but, and you know, we're going to be stamping a fair bit over the border, so it's not too much of an issue. And then we're going to bring in, just get some of the Granny Apple Green off, not that it matters too much, but pick up some of the Old Olive. We don't want it too heavy. Let's just start nice and light, see how we go. think we are just about done. Let's just add a little bit more. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Just filling in, well, some of the very slight gaps that I can see, but whether they're actually gaps, and it might just be the lighting. So let's take this off and see how we are looking. There we go. Okay, and now we need to stamp. So because we're going to be layering up quite a few bits and pieces, my recommendation is to start in the middle and work out, because if you start on the outside and move in, you may find you don't have quite enough room and you should have moved something over to the side slightly and all that sort of thing. So I would start with the path, and once I find it, I am using, there we go, so I'm using basic grey for this one, but you could also use Memento Black. That works absolutely fine. And so I want this roughly in the, well, actually no, it's not quite in the middle, and excuse my head. And then we just line up the second part. There we go. So that one is done, and now we work our way out. So next is Memento Black and the flowers. So we're going to go with some on each side, and I've possibly gone a bit too, yeah, I've gone, probably should have moved this across ever so slightly, or moved that across a bit, but that is okay. We can still work with that, and it's not that far off anyway. So this one is next, and we will color that in as well. And then I'm using crumb cake for the fence. And there's my fence. And this one's going to go right up on the edge, slightly overlapping. And then we need the, where's my little grass piece and old olive, and we will stamp this one off as well, just like we did on the first one. And I should probably clean that because I used Granny Apple Green for the first one. And again, this is just very random, doesn't have to be anywhere in particular, just wherever you feel like it. And I'm actually going to do another one just up here to partially cover the bottom of the fence, just because I went down a bit too far with that one, and I think that's probably enough. I'll just add a tiny bit there. Alrighty, so now let's stamp the sentiment before I forget. And I think, what did I use for that one? I used basic grey again, so let's go with that. And where is my sentiment? There we go. Okay, so put that to the side for the moment because we need to finish this one. So we need to do some colouring. So crumb cake for the fence. Now I think I just went with the light, yes. So you could go light or dark. I just went single blend for this one. And then same on this side. That's that one, and then we need now I think, I actually can't remember, did I use, no, that one is too dark. I can't actually remember off the top of my head. Let me check if I used Granny Apple Green or Old Olive. Nope, Granny Apple. But I think I must have used the light, which is now hiding down the bottom. There it is. Yes, that looks about right. Although you could use light or dark, and you can always add, if you want to add a bit of texture, add in a little bit of extra in the dark. Or you can just add little bits of the light. Just add a few areas where it's just that little bit darker. just try and roughly line that up. I've gone a bit too far down, but that's fine. It blends into the grass. It's all green, it's fine. There we go. All right, and then actually I'll just get the bullet tip end for the flowers. We're nearly there. We're getting there. Thank you to everyone who is sticking around. I know this is a bit longer than what we normally do. I had originally intended to do this as a separate standalone class rather than as my weekly class, but I ran out of time, so that didn't quite happen. So I am using strawberry slush and fresh freesia here, but again, as with the basket on the previous one, use whatever you feel like. Oh, I missed a bit of green there. I'll go back to that in a sec. And then we just need, once I fix up the bit that I missed, then we just need to do the stones. So for these stones, I just did a mix of, and I just alternated light and dark smoky slate and crumb cake. So go with whatever you feel like. And this was just very much random. I just picked a color, did a few, got the next color, did a few more. No order to it, just whatever works for you. So that's those first two. And on to the last two, and can't forget our little duck. Okay, that is done. I think I've got them all. So then we need to make sure we don't forget our little duck. go. Alrighty. So, nearly there. All that is left now is, let's punch these out. So I'm using the Happy Labels Pick a Punch. This is also Last Chance List, which I'm very sad about. I use this all the time. And I'll just do another one that needs to be a bit shorter. I think that's, yeah, that's about right. And then, actually, what I did last time, punch the end, and then I'm just going to line up, rather than trying to cut the second piece and get the alignment or get the length right depending on what I go with for the first one. I'm just going to do that. Much easier. So that's looking fine. And yes, Renee, being able to use both hands to do, well, pretty much anything can come in very handy at times. Most of the time, the hand that I use for anything just is habit more than anything, because I can switch, which is very, very useful. I used to get in a lot of trouble at primary school because I would constantly switch hands when I was writing, and they did not like that at all. I'd write with one hand, that hand to get tired, I'd switch hands, use the other hand. Yeah, they did not like that. Not at all. But then they would complain that, because they kept insisting that I had to use my right hand, but then they would complain that I didn't hold my pen correctly, or pencil, it was prep, with my right hand, but I do with my left, but I wasn't allowed to use my left. So, yeah, I still did, and I still do. Alrighty. Nearly there. Let's get this one down. Does freak people out sometimes though. Using one hand for something and then you switch, and it confuses people. Okay, let's get this done. So we want some dimensionals for this one, and we want dimensionals for our little duck. We are going to put the duck up on some dimensionals. I might need to cut a small, where are my end pieces? I just need a tiny little strip. Let's get one of end pieces. Actually, let's flip that. Oh no, on the back, not the front. Oh, this one does not want to cooperate. Let's try that again. Once it stops sticking to me. getting caught under my nails and not cooperating. There we go. I may need a little bit for that bottom section. We shall see. We're nearly there. Nearly there. Thank you for sticking it out. Nice to have someone to talk to. Okay, let's just add a little, try not to cut my finger off. I'm just trying to cut the dimensionals. There we go. Because this has got, because it's quite small and there are little bit thin narrow bits, so I do want a decent amount of coverage with the dimensionals, and we're going to stick a little duck about there. And then all right, let's do this one quickly. Actually, that has, I'll do another one later. That one had a bit too much marking on it, and I don't think it was adhesive, so I will sort that out later. Embellishments. So, some more of the little butterflies. And then just one of the Sparkle Dot Essentials. So that is going just there. And we are done. There is the third and final card. Alrighty, let me just clear a tiny bit of space, bring the others back in, just move that one out of the way. So these are the 3 cards for this week. I hope you like the projects. I know it did take a little bit longer than we usually do, but this is a really fun set. I really enjoyed playing with this one. So remember, and I'll just switch my camera back, you have until the end of Saturday night to get your orders in if you want the kits for this week's cards. And thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me out and I do appreciate it. Thank you again for joining me. Until next week, happy crafting. Bye.